من شدة الجوع ومن شدة الألم ومن شدة والآن ونحن نتحدث هذه العربة التي دخلت إلى مجمع الشفاء تحمل مصابين مجوعين أيضا.
استمر يا أستاذ، استمر أنت صوتنا.
Well, let's get back to Hada Abdel Hamid and Amman. She's in the Jordanian capital because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting in Israel and the occupied West Bank. Hada, we talked earlier, the Israeli army has admitted to murdering this Al Jazeera crew. What more do we have at the moment after their claims that Anas was part of a Hamas cell without providing any proof?
Well, in the statement, the Israeli army says that it has murdered Anas al-Sharif because they allege actually, that he was part of Hamas. The statement goes on saying that the military has actually gathered some documents while in Gaza that prove that he was a member of Hamas since 2016. It goes on to say that his role was to guide the rocket platoons, but you have to put that into context, because that moment our viewers just saw is the moment that really infuriated Israel. It's immediately after that an Israeli army spokesperson in Arabic went on posted a video on social media directly threatening Anas al-Sharif, and then from there started this acute campaign against him online, to the point that the Committee to Protect Journalists on July 24th issued a statement from New York saying that it was really worried about the safety of Anas al-Sharif and his team, obviously, because we mustn't forget that an entire team was murdered, targeted specifically. And then after that, on July 31st, the UN rapporteur for the freedom of expression said that all the accusations made against Anas al-Sharif were completely unfounded. So really, I think that this is a way to silence him, because he's become such a big voice in the Arab-speaking world. We heard that man off camera telling him, while Anas was there, drained, tired, trying to continue reporting with as much dignity as he could, the man encouraging him, telling him, you have become a voice. And I think Israel specifically wanted to shut that voice up before before this announced invasion or occupation of Gaza City. So I think Israel is laying the ground for what's coming next, and it had to shut down the loudest voice coming out of the Gaza Strip.
Hada, thank you so much. Hada Abdel Hamid there joining us from Amman. Well, earlier on Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledged to allow journalists into the Gaza Strip to cover events there, but stressed that ensuring the safety of media personnel was a key priority. And of course, this was just hours before his army murdered 4 Al Jazeera journalists.
In fact, we have decided, and I've ordered, directed the military to bring in foreign journalists, more foreign journalists, a lot. There's a problem of assuring security, but I think it can be done in a way that is responsible and careful to preserve your own safety. So the directive has been since, when is it? 2 days ago. And from what you're telling me, it hasn't yet been implemented. But it should be.
Mohammed Shahada is a Palestinian analyst and writer from Gaza and senior fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations. He's in Copenhagen. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, talking to you just about 45 minutes ago or thereabouts, we only thought that there was one Al Jazeera journalist who had been murdered. Now it turns out that there are 4, possibly 5. Is there any end to this? Is there any limit or red lines to journalists being targeted?
Well, Israel is killing journalists for the same reason that it invaded every single hospital in Gaza. Back when Israel was about to invade Al-Shifa hospital, they came up with the lie that underneath it was Hamas's largest headquarters ever. and they came up with this animation CGI video. When they reached to the hospital, an Israeli commander, a senior source, commented on this. He said, "We invaded to the hospital to send a message to people in Gaza. There's nothing safe. Nothing is beyond our reach. If Israel can kill Gaza's most prominent journalist in public view and admit to his murder and bomb him in a hospital in a tent full of journalists and get away with it, it is primarily to send a message to the population that's what's about to come next is going to be your darkest nightmares. It'll be Gaza's complete and total annihilation, encircling Gaza City, bombing it incessantly, pushing people out while preemptively creating an informational blackout by assassinating Gaza's top and most prominent journalists. Israel knew that Anas al-Sharif was not going to leave Gaza City because in the past 22 months of genocide, no matter how much Israel tried to get journalists and get Gazans to leave the northern half of the enclave, Anas was one of the few that refused and stood there for the entire time, even after the killing of his father, even after the bombing of his home. He was there the whole time. So they understood they have to take him out, along with the remaining journalists that have become Gaza's voice to the world and the world's eyes and ears into the genocide, in order to advance with the final phase of Israel's genocide in Gaza.
Well, absolutely. And when we look at this, it's only about an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours ago, that it was his last post on X, where he talked about that Israel was now openly threatening a full-scale invasion of Gaza. And that is something that he's been warning about for a while. And you're saying at the moment that is something which is going to happen.
Absolutely. You basically have the Israelis laying out their plan very openly. It was reported in Ma'arif, one of Israel's main newspapers, and they said that the plan would be encircling Gaza completely, banning food and water and medicine from going in, bombing it incessantly by land, air, and sea, forcing the population out at gunpoint, designating anyone who remains as a Hamas terrorist, and then the final phase is flattening everything that is in Gaza City right now, the largest urban center that remains of the enclave, in the exact same way that they are flattening Rafah now to near completion, as well as Beit Hanun, Beit Lahia, Khan Yunis, and Jabalia. So it's about implementing the general's plan, the notorious plan that Israel's infamous general Giora Island came up with, of weaponizing starvation, disease, and full destruction, full annihilation against the population in Gaza, not against Hamas, but against Gaza's entire population.
So, Mohammed, the question is, what is their end game?
The end game is to now concentrate the entire population in Gaza in concentration camp in Rafah. That's literally the verbatim description of Israel's intention, according to many of its opposition leaders and prominent journalists. They said Israel will establish a concentration camp in Rafah. Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, announced the intention to establish such a camp, and he said we will concentrate 600,000 people, and then the entire population, and anyone that remains in Gaza would be considered a terrorist. Everybody else that would go into that camp would not be allowed back into Gaza again. They would be crowded, lined up on the Egyptian borders in the anticipation of, when the opportunity comes, either forcing them with coercion and pressure to choose to leave Gaza, or expelling them out of Gaza at gunpoint. We heard from Israel's finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, saying that we are destroying everything that remains of Gaza. And we heard from Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, in May, saying that we are destroying homes in Gaza one by one, so people would have nothing to go back to, and they would have to leave. And that's what Israel is implementing now. Israel destroyed about 92% of all homes in Gaza. It's now about destroying the 8% that's left completely, or finishing the complete destruction of homes that have been heavily damaged. I have family members and friends who are literally sleeping and staying in the ruins of their homes that are partially or heavily damaged. Although the roofs can collapse on them at any minute, they decided to stay there because it's way better than staying on the street in the desert heat and in the large suffocating humidity in Gaza.